If I had $10 million, I can make you $1 million greenhouse. I recommend for you guys is that if you like the content, give me a like, a share, a subscribe, comment down below. Ask me any questions. I'll respond to you and kind of let you know why we do what we do. And then I hope you enjoy watching the channel. We're doing X pattern. The main thing is you have 2 strands per plant because we're going to do 2 heads, and then they're normally separated by 6 inches apart on the guide wire. That's the book answer, right? We take the book answer of how to trellis. Why we use blue? We use blue because we're trying to protect it from thrips. I think thrips is the main one because it can cause a lot of things. If you ever get a pepper and it's kind of like corky, it's not normal pepper checking. You see it more in like jalapenos, but in bell pepper, you see it like looks corky. That's thrips. They were encountering thrips. And you want to produce a grade A bell pepper for your clients. You just always want to try to produce the grade A. There's no point growing it and using really good seed stock if you're not going to make grade A. What we do is we have other ways that are just part of our other IPM, integrated pest management, and one of that is using blue. I used to do blue and yellow scouting cards. I don't have to do that as much anymore because I've come up with just, hey, let's just make this gigantic net of blue and let's make it, it looks like a little teepee. And it kind of grows them all up together. Now, one thing I'm noticing that with this one, I might have to add extra guide wire, which is, I think this is like a number 12 guide wire. Up at the top, you notice how it's kind of crossing in together. I'm not sure if we have extra one in stock, but you should have 1 guide wire, 2 guide wire, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I don't think this greenhouse had that done. You provide them all the capabilities. And there's always something that breaks, or hey, you may have done it in greenhouse 1, you haven't done it here. So you have to always upgrade your stuff. It's not that bad. I always have some lying around. The thing that I worry about when you do that and why we have different grades, like some they'll say use like a number 16 fencing wire. I use the thick stuff because we're using bamboo. We're not using steel. So you have to also break it up in between. This is about 10 meters in between each post, maybe 5. So you have 5, 10. So you have a 50-meter greenhouse lengthwise by 10. So you want to make sure you split it up because when we did tomatoes, it was so freaking heavy. Like it was just like 9 tons of weight at peak season. So it's just kind of like, not so much. So make sure you're always thinking about that stuff. And it's going to constant thing because why these guys are small. Yes, we should have done this before we transplanted because you're going to work on it and it's going to cause issues. But it's one of those things that's kind of a big issue when you get into planting season because you don't know the weight that you're going to have. And theoretically, this house should produce about 5.4 tons of bell peppers in its life cycle. It could produce more, it could produce less. Now again, that's kind of small compared to like Netherlands type growing or other bigger commercial where they're actually pumping in CO2 and other things. We're going to probably grow 3 kilos a plant, and I already consider that very good per plant. That's about 8 to 12 bell peppers ranging between 200 to 300 grams a plant. So that's one of the big things that we kind of look at is always like take a look at it and check. Other than that, everything looks really good. I see some nutrient type damage. I'll show you what that looks like. Nutrient burn, aka tip burn, right in here. That's nutrient burn. That's where you put too much. You know, you get kind of over excited. So right now in the soil, when I measure each row, you're looking at between low 1.4 today to a high. I think I have a leak back in the back, like way back over there. I have a leak and it's running like a 2.7, which is tolerable for pepper. It can do excursions into higher EC, but that's one of the best ways I can measure the nutrients without doing a tissue leaf analysis. If I could do a tissue leaf analysis, people like in the West, you can go to university, they'll tell you how to harvest it. And then there's certain ways, I know it in tomato, it's like right after transplant, like 4 weeks, and then it's right before flower, and then right when fruit's set, and then you take certain samples and it can actually tell you what's inside your plant, all the micros, all the macros, and then you can actually tailor your recipe to finish out the season, because then you're not guessing like I am. I'm guessing because I'm doing really long-handed math, which you should probably use AI and use some chat GPT on what actually formula you should do, but you should actually have a tool. And that's why I use the Blue Lab pulse meter and soil pH probe, so I can get an idea of where the crop sits, because otherwise I'm just kind of guessing, because I can say, oh, I do a 41838 master blend, and I do a Yara 15.500 calcium nitrate. I can tell you that, but then what my plants are going to observe and uptake, I have to kind of look at them. And I recommend Yara Check It, and there's a couple other ag ones where you just look at it and it shows you a picture, but it's kind of really tough if you're not really fluent into plant life of what's going on. Then you're not going to understand what it's actually telling you. And some things look different than others, but because I know what I've been running through mine, I can say that that's most likely a nutrient issue. The white stuff you see is actually from our fungicides. I am having to do fungicides because just the likelihood that I bring the anthracosis from the field inside the greenhouse, even though I've solar baked it, turned the soil and everything, that is one of those big concerns of mine. So that's why we have 3-foot bass constantly filled with bleach. If you're in any climate that's warm, that subtropical bleach will burn off in like an hour. Not even that. I mean, it depends how hot your sun is. That's how hot that stuff will evaporate, right? Just imagine a swimming pool. Eventually, you know, you have to refill it with bleach, chlorine, and everything else like that. But other than that, everything looks really good. I'm about ready to start doing. I'm gonna do a triple 19 this week. I got in the books because I hosted somebody on Sunday to kind of show them about farming, especially bell pepper farming. And they were asking a lot of good questions, and I was just kind of saying, hey, this is what it is. This is what you can expect. Yes, the book says you can do X. This is what we can do based on our climate. So, you know, that's kind of what it is. And that's what it really helped at least explain and teach somebody else that, hey, this is what I did. This is the mistakes I made. This is the results you can see. This is what you're going to get. If you do better, great. If you do this, then that's what it is. But you just don't want to have any other doubts where they're like, oh, I could have done better. I should have done better. I could have done this. I did that. Yeah, that's great, right? Because that's how it feels sometimes, especially when you get into the Ferrari type level of crop growing and crop science, is that if you use the right seeds, the really expensive ones, you use the really right amendments, you have to find the balance, because you can't just spend a lot of money. It's just not going to work. It's not going to be sustainable. This is like 10, 12 feet tall. At that point, like, we'll talk like crop maintenance, especially later on as we do this, but since we're talking trellising right now, you can't work that high. If you need to work that high, you need to get like the really fancy stuff you see in the high-tech glass houses, where they have like a conveyor belt and they have painter's scaffolding and they just raise themselves up and down. That's if you're going to grow that high. This, once it gets about 10 feet in the air, I'm already probably done with the crop. Yes, greedily, I would love to keep it going, but this crop is going to last 180 days. Maybe I'll extend that to 225 if I don't have to do a bunch of treatments or the cost, because every time a plant gets bigger and bigger and bigger and you don't prune it off, it just eats more and more, which means you have to feed it more and more. Theoretically, it is cheaper if you can cycle it twice. I know it's like, oh, but I can extend it, but it's just because you're just starting fresh. And if you start fresh, then that's like one of the best ways. So a short video this week. I did some quick pruning. You didn't see it and I didn't record it. You gotta like, subscribe, comment down below, share, ask me any questions. We see you next week.